you for joining us for Cookies and Cans 2021, presented to you by the amazing Pink Food Society of Southern Nevada. We have some amazing guests with us for this event. My name is Ashley. I am the president of the Pink Foods chapter. We also have one of our fantastic members, Gemini from the Artful Saucier, who's going to be walking us through our pairings today. And we have Johnny B from Cerveza joining us as well. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. How's the day treating you so far?
Wonderful. I've been able to drink beer and eat cookies for breakfast, so I'm not mad at that.
And like you only have a minimum amount of dishes compared to normal.
Correct.
That's perfect. Awesome, awesome. So for those of you that are not familiar with Pink Foods, maybe you've heard of Pink Foods, but you're not really sure what it is. Pink Foods is a professional organization for women in the fermented beverage space. So whether that is hot sauce or beer, wine, distilled spirits, kombucha, we're open to all women that are committed to these industries, these beverages that we all know and love, and more importantly, just connecting together and networking, learning more about each other's specialties. So I've been a Pink Foods member off and on for a couple of years. I've been with Duval for a little over a year. That's when I rejoined. And it's been an amazing opportunity to meet some fantastic women, not only here in Las Vegas, but internationally. Every year, each chapter does at least one collab brew that is a fundraiser for us. And we will have some announcements coming up soon as to when you can get the Pink Foods collab brew this year in Las Vegas. The hop selection. Amanda, are you able to tell us a little bit about the hop selection? Okay, so we'll get some information about the hop selection a little bit later. But this year is going to be a little bit different. Typically, each chapter does a variation of a particular style of beer. This year, we just have a hop blend that all of the chapters will be using. So if you know some of the ladies in Pink Foods, if there's a style that you haven't seen in town locally for a while, you know there's some amazing ingredients that you haven't seen in the beer locally here, please reach out to us. Let us know, and we'll definitely take it into consideration. But likely that beer is going to be coming out in the fall. Typically, it is brewed on March 8th, which is International Women's Day, but we think we deserve 365 days out of the year, not just the one. So definitely keep an eye out on that beer, and we're excited to brew it. We've got some amazing things going on in the craft beer community here. And it's not just beer that we're focused on now. We've recently opened up our membership to all women in the fermented beverage space, but because this is kind of what Pink Foods is known for, we definitely want to keep that tradition alive. Gemini, have you had any of the Pink Foods beers?
I know you have. Years, absolutely. And I'm hoping that when I go to Fairbanks, Alaska next month, I can try the one that Sarah Perez, formerly of Las Vegas, flew from Anchorage to Fairbanks to brew with the boys over at Hoodoo and the girls over at Hoodoo. And that's also a brewery I love. So I'm excited to go and see what they've done.
Yeah, definitely miss Sarah here. Hopefully she'll be coming back to pay us a visit very soon. I've known Sarah for a long time. I actually met Sarah through the unfortunately defunct Barley's Angels. And that was my introduction into craft beer culture and community here in Las Vegas. And that was almost 7 years ago. And I'm so proud of her. She is kicking ass in her field and doing great things in Alaska and getting the recognition and attention that she deserves. So definitely want to clap her up for sure. And thank you for bringing her to the forefront of this chat. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So I think I've rambled on a little bit about Pink Foods, but if there are any women out here watching in Southern Nevada or even Northern Nevada, or if you know a fantastic woman that either makes her living from selling adult beverages or is looking to transition into that field and industry, please do reach out to us. We're always looking for new members. We love learning. That's how we grow and evolve and make sure that we have solid footing in this industry. So we'll put the information in here a little bit later if anybody's interested in getting in touch with us. But while we're waiting for a couple of our members to join us, Cookies and Cans was kind of off the cuff idea that myself, Terry from Craft Beer Girls, and Amanda P from North Fifth had when we were kind of planning. There's Terry. Hey, Terry. Right on time. So Terry mentioned when we were planning something fun that we could do that was not only educational, but exciting, and to let Southern Nevada know that Pink Boots is still active and we've got some things going on. Terry brought to our attention an amazing troupe here locally by the name of Troop 83. And I'm going to see if I can pull up a picture of the girls in just a second here. But Troop 83 is an amazing troupe. We've all grown up with Girl Scout cookies. You know, it's like almost internally we know it's that time of year. You start craving Thin Mints and tag-alongs and all those kind of things. And when, hi, Lady Ross. Hi. See, we support women of all ages here, even the little ones.
Got her.
Troop 83 is a very unique and special troop and very near and dear to my heart. All of the members of Troop 83 are girls that have unique needs that may be a little bit different than some of the other members of other troops. And based on that, their troop leaders have really taken time to curate experiences and relationships with organizations and members in the community that will allow them to move through some of the goals and achievements of being a Girl Scout in their own time and what's in alignment with their abilities. So this particular troop, we reached out to them and said, hey, we need Girl Scout cookies. Can you hook it up? And they said, absolutely. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with them. They came and joined me, and Tony will be on a little bit later. And I think, Johnny, you were there last Saturday too. And they came and brought us boxes and boxes of Girl Scout cookies, and we were like instant celebrities. Everybody at Cerveza was like, there's Girl Scout cookies. We're going to get Girl Scout cookies. So hopefully this event is well received. You guys enjoy it. And hopefully we'll do it again next year. And definitely looking forward to supporting them year round. If you have a young lady that is interested in becoming a Girl Scout that maybe they've not explored that opportunity because they may have different needs or some particular challenges, please do reach out to us. We would be more than happy to connect you with those young ladies. So with that being said, I am going to try to share my screen here if I can work this out. Terry, while I get this together, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about all the amazing things you're doing in the craft beer space?
Oh, you're too kind, Ashley. Thank you. I'm Terry, and I run a large Facebook group, online community for women who love craft beer. We have a nationwide group that has almost 30,000 members, and then each state has their own local chapter as well. And our state of Nevada group has just under 600 members. And I also help lead the Southern Nevada portion of the Nevada group. We typically meet once a month or every other month at local businesses and do a bottle share or just a tasting flight to familiarize those who may not be very familiar with the local beer community with craft beer businesses and supporting local. And we haven't been able to do that in a while, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, but we're hoping to be able to do that again soon. Basically, we're just a large community of women who have all different experience levels. There are women who own breweries, brewers. There are novices who are just getting into craft beer, who maybe through a friend tasted something that finally caught their palate. And we want to provide a space that's positive and safe for people to learn and share their experiences without some of the things that happen in a lot of co-ed groups where people with more experience can be a little bit condescending towards those who don't know. Or for example, if you were to post something with beer in a dirty glass and get attacked, we try to stray away from that so that people feel comfortable and that they can learn. So that's it. And this is Roslyn, my future Girl Scout. Say hi.
Hi, Roslyn.
share my screen. Bear with me. 1 second. Let's see. Hopefully it works. One second. You would think after a year in COVID, I would have all of this worked out, but no. Okay, are we good, Amanda? All right, so Troop 83, these are some of the amazing girls in Troop 83. They are an absolute joy. They are hustlers and natural born entrepreneurs. And their story is they were formed 4 years ago for girls with unique needs in order to give them equal opportunity at a Girl Scout experience at their own pace. Cookie Season teaches these girls how to be entrepreneurs through marketing, selling strategies, money management, and of course, hard work. And I think all of the ladies around the world all know what hard work is like. Some of the fellas too, but you know, it's our month, so we're gonna focus on that. Fantastic. So Johnny, it's very important for us women, especially those in spaces where maybe it's not the most of us, to have some of the fellas that support us and encourage us and let us know, you know, we can do what it is that we're looking to do. And you definitely have been a huge support to Pink Boots. So can you share a little bit about your experience working with Pink Boots?
Yeah, no, it has definitely been an amazing experience, especially being our first year. You know, being open almost 5 months, so it was definitely different. So, but no, we're grateful being part of this, and you know, thank you for including us in this. Again, we're really thankful, and we're really looking forward to any other events you ladies might want to be doing. So we appreciate it.
Awesome, fantastic. Now, you mentioned that, you know, you're interested and you're looking forward to seeing some of the events that they're doing, but we're interested to see what events Cerveza has coming up. So is there anything happening at Cerveza that the craft community to be aware of?
We're definitely got a lot going on right now. So crossing my fingers, we go up to 50% Monday. So we definitely want to include a lot of Latino games. For example, we want to do Loteria Night at some point in the near future. So definitely get the Latino in there as well, our little flair. But you know, we try to include live music. We trying to do a lot of like beer tasting classes along with the spirits, whiskey, mezcal, and tequila. Bottle shares. I mean, anything that we includes anything with beer and also spirit. So if you ladies have any suggestions, well, feel free to shoot us an email or text. You have our contact info, and you know, we'll love to be part of any other programming. So.
Awesome. So can we just take it back a step? You mentioned Loteria. Can you explain what that is for some of us that may not be super familiar?
Yeah. Loteria, it's a think about like a bingo. So Loteria has been around since late 1800s. So it's a game with different images, and it's pretty much bingo. I think the card holds up to 12 different images. So at the end, you can just call Loteria. So it's kind of like in a sense, bingo.
So is this something that is very popular with Latinas?
Yes, yeah, all across Latin America. So, you know, I remember when I was growing up playing with my family in Christmas, or you know, just our board game. So it's definitely a good experience sharing with family. So we want everybody who goes to Cerveza to feel like family.
So speaking of Latinas, are there any Latinas in your life that you'd like to shout out? Maybe some that may be joining the Cerveza family officially soon, or just, you know, a certain Latina out there that's held you down during this process of getting.
Oh, definitely my wife. She's been in my corner ever since we got married. So you know, she's my corner. So
You got married.
I'm sorry.
You said since you got married, but I think she's been in your corner a little bit before that.
Yeah, no, definitely. But now it's like since we started Cerveza and everything, our marriage, so she's definitely has been in my corner. So definitely want to give her a shout out.
And what was her name again?
Maria Ochoa.
Thank you for keeping him grounded and supporting him in his dream and his vision of launching Cerveza. Cerveza has become my unofficial downtown office. So I'm very happy that it's open, and definitely happy to support. So with that being, go ahead, Johnny.
No, thank you. Appreciate again. Thank you so much, ladies, for including us in this. We're really grateful.
Absolutely. So when we were working to put together this pairing, it was really kind of a treat for us to be able to come and work with the Cerveza, because you guys have so many local and Nevadan brewed beers in stock. So can you speak a little bit about why that's kind of important to Cerveza, or why that decision was made?
So we have 24 beers in draft. We're always rotating. We definitely try to support local, but not only Las Vegas, we also try to support Reno. We have a lot of guest tabs and local that we try to rotate. We also got a beer cave. Our beer cave holds over 140 different cans. So we definitely have a lot of cans from Edward Baker, Bad Beats, Big Dogs, Craft House. I mean, you name it. So we're definitely trying to support local. So we sell it by singles. You can build your own 4-pack. So we definitely want to showcase all those different cans. So it's been an amazing experience since we opened, getting all that local support, and people really seem to like our spot. So again, we're grateful, especially during this hard time. So we couldn't be happier. So
awesome, fantastic, and I love that commitment to local craft and local community. For those of us here viewing, or if you're viewing this a little bit later, that are born and bred here in Nevada, I'm sure you probably know where I'm sitting at. I have the pleasure of streaming live from Tenaya Creek, their second location. Tenaya Creek is officially legal. They're 21 now, so Tenaya Creek can drink beer. So, but it's just really been amazing and fascinating to see how the craft community has grown here in Southern Nevada while still keeping those local roots intact. Speaking of local Nevadan breweries, beer bars, brewers, all of that, I have the distinct honor of being here with Amanda from North Fifth. And also we have a representative with us from Nevadan Brewing that will be opening soon, very, very soon in the Northwest. So it's definitely a pleasure for sure to enjoy some local beers here, brewed by locals that have been on their own personal individual beer journey and brought it back home so we all can drink and enjoy it. So again, congratulations, Cerveza. We are so super proud and excited for you to be open and definitely have our support. And Terry, do you know if there are any meetups? I know you mentioned that virtually, that's kind of how CBG is running right now, but I had the distinct honor of meeting some of our CBG members out and about with you. And I think we ended up at Cerveza that evening, if my memory serves me correctly. So if I'm a member, or if I'm a lady that's just discovered craft beer and maybe I'm not comfortable going out drinking by myself, what would be the best way for me to say, hey, I think I want to hit up Huddle or Brewworks or Able Baker or Cerveza, but I don't want to go by myself? Is CBG a good platform for me to find some ladies?
Absolutely. That's what we love, when ladies join our group and then post, hey, after work, I'd like to grab a beer at Tenaya or Craft House or anywhere. Does anybody in the area want to meet up or anything like that? And our ladies are usually very welcoming and will join and meet up, and you make fast friends. And the situation, actually, speaking of, one of our ladies and her husband and friend from Iowa came in and were visiting for Super Bowl weekend. And we tend to all kind of meet up together and share a few beers and catch up and show them around our town and our growing community.
Yeah, that was a really interesting way that came together. It didn't even dawn on me until I was sitting across from that lady that she and I had been in touch. She's getting ready to do some traveling to the Caribbean. And for those of you that know me, that's my heart, that's my passion. And so we had been communicating through the chat for a couple of months. And then lo and behold, thanks to Terry, we were able to share a beer in person here in town. So that was a fantastic experience. Thank you very much, Terry, for facilitating that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of really ties into me what the mission of Pink Boots is, which I'm going to share with everybody that's watching, just in case you're not familiar. The mission of Pink Boots, the Pink Boots Society was created to assist, inspire, and encourage women in the fermented alcoholic beverage industry to professionally advance their careers through education. Education is not just sitting in a classroom. It's not just reading a book. It's things like this. It's forming, relationships and friendships and saying, hey, you really know a lot about wine. I really don't. Can I maybe connect with you? Can we meet for a glass of wine? Can you walk me through things that I should be familiar with when I'm tasting whatever it is that I'm tasting? Or for me, once I discovered that craft beer was going to be what I committed the rest of my life to, I had an amazing friend who I reached out to, and I was like, hey, I want to start home brewing. And, we did my first home brew together, and now he's getting ready to open up his brewery. So it's been an amazing journey. And Pink Boots, a lot of people ask why Pink Boots. For those of you who have ever had the pleasure of attending a brew day, you've got to keep your feet protected. Usually we're wearing some type of industrial boots. And the Pink Boots came about as a way to say, hey, we're here in this industry, but we're still women. And this was just kind of our little cheeky way of acknowledging that. So that is our logo. That's our symbol. And then Pink Boots actually is an acronym. The P stands for passion, which I think we all have a passion for craft beer and craft beverages at this point. The I is for integrity and inspiration. The N is for networking, which we all do a lot of. I think this is the industry that I've been in throughout my adult career that I've done the most networking with, and it's always great because there's great beverages involved when we connect with each other. K is for knowledge, and we're always seeking that, whether it's an event like this, again, attending courses. Hopefully in the future, Pink Boots will be offering more educational opportunities. Not only for those of us here in Southern Nevada, but internationally. Pink Boots, we have chapters as far as Japan and Australia. So definitely there's opportunities out there to learn what you don't know. And the B, of course, does anybody know what the B in Pink Boots stands for?
Beer.
Beer, very good. Beer and brewing, fantastic. The first O is for opportunity. So we're very committed to creating opportunities for ladies that want to grow in this industry, whether that's scholarships. We do have scholarships on a local level. We have them on national levels. And sometimes something as simple as saying, hey, I think I want to learn how to distill. Do you know somebody that I can talk to? So really just creating those opportunities for each other. The other O, which I am super grateful for, since I have become the current Pink Boots president, we've had a lot of this. This is the open exchange of ideas. Both Terry and Amanda probably can tell you I've been, hitting them up. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And when I sat down with Gemini and said, we're having this virtual event, you are a wealth of knowledge. Is there any way you would be interested? And she said, absolutely, took it and ran with it. And this open exchange of ideas is what the creativity of craft is for me. The T is for teaching or to teach. So if we have knowledge, it serves us no purpose if we don't share it with others. So when we learn things, it really kind of is our responsibility to teach each other and uplift each other and make sure that we all have what we need. And finally, the S is for success, because we want everyone to be successful. There's no point in doing any of this if you don't achieve success in the end. So I feel like I kind of just went on a little Tony Robbins tangent there. But yes, that is what Pink Boots is all about. So with that being said, for those of you that are familiar with pairing, this may be a way to just kind of refresh your brain. And for those of you that have not done a formal pairing, right now we're going to pass it over to Gemini, and she's going to run us through a pairing 101. Pairing is something that we've all heard, but maybe we're not all familiar with. And so this will be a really good foundation to help us walk through the remainder of today's event. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Gemini. Thanks.
You got it. Thank you. So my name is Gemini. I do own a small food company here in town called Artful Saucier. We make fermented hot sauces, chili crisps, rubs, spices, things like that. We change up all the time because we always want to learn. We always want to try new flavors, and we want to pair things with other foods. I started this company because I wanted sauces and hot sauces. I do like spicy, that both had all the hot and spice that people wanted, but also had flavor. My problem with most commercial hot sauces right now is they're hot just for the sake of hot, and that will burn your palate and ruin pretty much everything that you're eating. So pairing is something that's super important to me. I have also studied the second level. I'm working on the third of Wine and Spirits Education Trust. I have WS2 for wine and spirits specifically, and I am working on my Cicerone. I thought I would start a little bit with some more technical stuff, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. You're going to be eating cookies and drinking beer. We are going to have some of the brewers on, or a video or two. So we want to make sure that they talk about what they're offering. But I wanted to give you an idea of why things work the way they work. I am reading off of my notes on an iPad, so forgive me if I'm not always addressing the camera. The biggest thing is, well, let me start with, Confucius once said that everyone eats and drinks, but few appreciate taste. And there's a lot of people out there. We all know somebody who eats just to eat. It's fuel, and that's fine. If that's what you enjoy, then that's great. If you're like me, you like to eat food, you like to drink drinks, and I want them to go together. I want it to be an interesting experience. And there are ways to do that where you're not being a snob, you're not doing anything out of the ordinary. If you think about it, when you put a recipe together, you're already thinking about what flavors go together and how those things are going to mesh. It's the same thing when you're doing your drink pairings, whether it's liquor, whether it's wine. In this case, we're doing beer. All of the chemical compounds in the food and in your drinks have something to say about how you're going to taste something. So what is the difference between taste and flavor? Because they are not the same thing. If you hold your nose, close your eyes, and eat chocolate, you may not know what you are eating. You might taste the chocolate, you might taste sweet, you might taste bitter, you might taste phenols, you might taste tannins, but you're not necessarily going to know it's chocolate because your sense of smell has so much to do with it. That's going to come into play today, but that is your first and basic rule, is make sure that what you're doing isn't going to be an assault on your senses. Flavor is more than just odor and taste. It also includes texture and temperature. Going into beer specifically, there are certain beers you want to drink colder. There are certain beers you don't want to drink cold at all. And all of that has to do with how flavors are presented. Specifically, you don't want to drink heavier beers or things that might have a lot of tannins or umami or savory flavors. I know that people have talked about soy sauce in their beer. You don't want to drink those cold because that means you're not, sorry, I have a gnat in the house. You're not going to get all the flavors that you want. There are certain flavors that hit your tongue best when they're room temperature or warm. Vichyssoise as a soup is a good example. You over season the hell out of it because you drink it cold. You eat it cold. If you were to do that warm, it would probably be too salty. It would probably be, far too much for your palate. But because you serve it cold and there's a lot going on with fats, with starches, with things like that, that changes how you approach it. Hot is not a flavor. As much as I love my hot sauce, as much as I love my spicy, spicy is not a flavor. It's a pain reaction. So all of us who like hot sauce, we're a little bit of a masochist. That's just something that goes with it. And you have to be careful with that because if you have a high pain tolerance, you might be able to take spicier foods. More tannic wines can happen like this. Super high proof bourbons, ryes, things like that. You might not taste it as much as, say, the next guy, but it will affect how you taste other things. It will affect how different taste receptors hit when you're eating and drinking, and it could upset your stomach. Let me get back to the notes. So over millions of years, our sense of taste evolved to help us choose which foods to eat. Choosing the wrong foods could mean wasted energy, poor nutrition, or poisoning. According to the current biology perspective on food and human taste, humans relied on fruit and other plant-based foods and eventually developed a strong sense for natural bitter taste in plants and leaves. Today, think of hops and grains. Bitter is actually a negative reaction. And that's something that we have adjusted to over the years, that modern day food and drink has changed our perspective on. There's a myth out there that your taste buds are only in particular sides of your mouth for different flavors. That's not true. They're all over. But there is a point where bitter is mostly concentrated at the back of the mouth, back of the throat, because if it is too bitter, we're not going to like it. Your body wants to reject it. So obviously modern day has changed that a lot. We drink and eat a lot of bitter foods, but that is where taste receptors have evolved. So as time progressed, we retained these early taste preferences and acquired newer ones. We like the taste of sweet because it signifies a source of sugar, which means energy. We like sour because it's a source of vitamin C. Our bodies do not produce vitamin C. We have to get it from everything that we eat and drink. We like salty because our plant-based source diet did not have enough salt. That's why animals that don't eat meat, like herbivores, seek out salt licks. So getting back to more modern times, we now understand that fatty, creamy tastes mimic pleasure responses in the brain, as do some bitter, now that we have evolved to enjoy it and find ways to make it pleasurable and not just an autonomic response for more decadent tastes. Chocolate, for example, contains a key component called triamine, which is derived from the amino acid tyrosine. Tyrosine is the amino acid precursor to dopamine. Dopamine makes you happy. If you are doing things to bring up your dopamine and serotonin levels, you're enjoying it. That's where food and drink come in. And that's why tasting, understand why you're tasting it, where you're tasting it, and how these things go together is so important. If you're not enjoying your food, you're not going to enjoy the rest of your experience. Our brains are wired that way, and we have figured that out. So, mentioned fat. Fat is not a flavor. We are learning that there are fat receptors on the tongue, and the only way to test that is a bunch of electrodes on your head. You cannot move because any movement will cause a reading on your EEG. It's a whole mess. But they're learning that there are receptors there, and that's what gives us creamy flavors. So when we talk about beer, I'm doing this because my 4 beers are set up right here. When we talk about beer and creaminess, we're talking about things like lactose, which is a sugar, but it also creates a creamy flavor when it's going through chemical processes like brewing. And so we don't taste fat. It's not fatty beer. It doesn't have oils in it necessarily, but it does have amino acid and fatty acid chains. We talk about esters coming up in one of the flavors that have to do with that sensation. And lactose is a really good example of that. It's a sugar. It's a natural sugar. You'll find it in milk. You'll actually find it in some fruit juices. And if you've ever had lemon oil or orange oil or anything like that, it still has that super creamy, fatty texture that isn't fat as we know it when we talk about food. Let's see. I'm going to skip a little bit of this so we can talk about fun stuff. Basic taste sensations. Science reports in the world's largest medical library, the U.S. National Library of Medicine, have identified 5 specific types of taste. That's sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and umami. Umami is a fairly new word. Let's call it the past decade, give or take a couple of years. And it's a way to describe a sense of layered flavors that a lot of people would just say is savory. Savory and umami are used interchangeably, and mostly that's okay. But umami has another depth to it. And when we talk about some of the beers, which one did I say had it? With the Bad Beat and the Able Baker, and definitely the Craft House Dunkel, there is a soy sauce flavor that people pick up in beers, and that is umami. So you have sweet, which is usually going to be from the sugars, from the lactose, from residual fruit, fructose, things like that. You're going to have tannic flavors. Sorry, reading the screen. You're going to have tannic flavors, which are going to be things like you find in red wine and dark chocolate, and it has a little bit of a drying effect, maybe even a little bit of a wood residual flavor. And then you're going to have a little bit of bitter, a little bit of sour. Umami sort of encompasses all of those and creates its own little sensation. And so that's really a lot of fun. Taste evolution has absolutely considered your sense of taste and smell very important. There are certain receptors in your nose and in your mouth that deal with the olfactory senses, which is what you're smelling, and deal with what the taste receptors are doing. And again, those taste receptors for every 5 of those flavors are all over the place. So they mix up, and that's kind of the point. The reason that our body thinks this is so important is because we are still programmed to realize that we go to certain foods if we need something in our bodies. An example would be, I don't want to call it a joke. It's not a joke. I know women, this has never happened to me, but I know women that when they're on their period, this is important, they crave chocolate. They crave chocolate because chocolate has a lot of magnesium in it. And so it's something that our body has learned that this is a good source of that. So when you are going through stress, your magnesium levels drop. If you're a woman, your magnesium levels are dropping all the time. If you're an insomniac, you need magnesium. And so chocolate is one of those things. So it hits the reward center, you're happy. So you're hitting all the notes, right? Your brain is happy, your tongue is happy, your tummy is happy. It's good for you. So that is why tasting is so important. And taste buds are one of the only parts of our circulatory system and our nervous system specifically that can regrow after they've been destroyed or grow old. Doesn't happen with everything else. So taste is very important. So my long-winded scientific part of it, I want to talk about the specifics. And we're now talking strictly about what we're going to be tasting today. Acid. Acid is almost always the right choice with other acidic foods or lighter foods. And it's really great if you have something rich and you want to break through it. It's great for breaking through if you have like a Caesar salad. A Caesar salad, the dressing is usually egg yolks, oil, anchovies, lemon, and salt and pepper. Lemon is also found in hollandaise. The two things that those two things have in common are egg yolks and eggs. Eggs are rich, eggs are fatty, acid will help break that down. So when you're making pairing choices, acid with either other acidic foods, because the different esters and the different citrics, fructose and lactose can bounce off each other and really kind of break those down and support the flavors that are in there. The sour beer that you're going to be tasting with that lemon cookie is a perfect example. Acid brightens both heavy and other acid flavors. It breaks through the fattiness. And if you think of it also with grilled seafood, things like that, it can help pop all those flavors. That's the whole reason we do pairings, is to pop the flavors and find out what complements them. Complement with an E, not an I, but also complements them. So if you're looking at sweet things, has anybody ever dunked their fresh, hot, salty French fries in a milkshake? Exactly. So
Frosty count?
I'm sorry?
Does a Frosty count?
Yes, absolutely. So quick story, growing up in high school, we had a milkshake offering that was a lot like the Frosties from Wendy's. That's exactly what we did. We took the French fries, we dipped them in the chocolate Frosty malt, whatever it was, perfect. Acid is really great for breaking through things. Going on to sweet. So that sweet and that salty really go together. Another thing that goes really well with salty food is a lot of carbonation. So if you're thinking about beer and you're thinking of salty foods, you don't actually want to go with the less carbonated, maybe heavier bodied, more umami flavored beers. You want something slightly sweet. You want something more carbonated. That's going to help balance those two things out and hit all the right taste receptors at the same time. The salt pops, the acid pops, it cuts through the fat a little bit. It's fantastic. Also think about like Rieslings with Thai food is a really common pairing because sweet can dig through some of the spicy. It doesn't take it away. It just breaks it down so that you're not only tasting the spicy. Again, that's why we're doing pairings. You want to put things together. They're going to help enhance the food you're eating, cut through some of the stuff that could potentially be one note, and add to the layers of flavor that you're trying to put together while you're eating and drinking. If you are going to go sweet, keep your drinks sweeter than your food. If your food is sweeter than your drink is going to get lost. You're not going to have a balance. You're not going to be able to cut through some of that, and it gets a little bit more difficult. So that's just a keep in mind. If you're drinking dessert wines with dessert, make sure your dessert wines have a little bit more of those sherry notes, those raisin notes. If you're doing it with beer, you want something sort of off sweet. so it doesn't overtake what you're trying to eat. Beer can come off a little sweeter. That's why I'm saying a little off sweet. But yeah, if your food is just plain sugar, then you're going to want something sweeter than that to cut through it. It seems a little weird, but it works. Tannins. So most people think of wine, chocolate, porters, stouts, dunkels. If you like strong tea, I am a tea drinker. Coffee has tannins. Those are those slightly bitter, drying, not necessarily a heavy mouthfeel, but just super dense, darker flavors. Slightly bitter and astringent would be a good way to describe that. Those are great with fatty, meaty, and heavily flavored foods. So duck, marbled beef, chocolate, cranberries, and pomegranates. They've got a great tartness, and that is that tannic flavor that the drying, you sort of get the back of your throat. And then back to bitter. Again, bitter is a poison response, but we have learned to love it. I know I like really good bitter beers. I love IPAs. Exactly. And I love bitter food. I love fermented food. This could be pickles. This could be a lot of things. The one great thing about fermented foods is they could be salty, they could be bitter, they could be tannic, they can be sweet, depending on what you're doing. If you've ever had preserved lemons or preserved citrus of any kind, you preserve them in salt and they still end up really sweet, really concentrated, and are really great in that way. So texture is another thing. I talked about bubbles in fried foods. That is important. If your drink, your beer, or your food is overly heavy against what it is being paired with, you're going to lose the second one. It's just going to happen. Those really heavily bodied, richer things that coat your tongue, coat your stomach, they sound really great at the time, but it's going to be really difficult to kind of pull with those flavors a little bit. And then the last one we're talking about is umami. Again, that's the really, really deep depth of flavor. It's got a mix of tannins and bitter and probably a little bit of sour. And it really comes into like earthy flavors. Mushrooms would be umami. That's a really great example. So think of roasted malts and beer, sherry wines, porters, stouts, things like that.
Gemini, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to.
Please, I'm just kind of going and not thinking.
I don't know if you've ever had this, but it's from Texas, and it's a pickle beer.
I don't think I have. I'm super interested. I did try a pickle whiskey last night that
I bet that's good.
It was interesting. It was a little sweeter than I would like. I tend to overtaste sweet. So when I'm thinking about pairings, I have to be really careful about, just because I might taste a little bit of extra sugar, it doesn't mean everybody else will. But yeah, it was interesting. I liked it. It wasn't a good Jameson pickleback. It's not the same, but it was a good effort. But I think I would like that. So yeah, the reason
sour pickle beer, and they also make a spicy version.
See, that would be really great. So what is this? This is important. What is the body like?
It's very light.
Okay. And the carbonation?
It's also pretty light.
Okay.
It's not.
So it's more, is it like more effervescent versus carbonation?
Yeah. And this is also really good to use in micheladas.
Yes, that would be perfect. So you've got, this is a really great example. So you've got a little bit of sour, you've got salt, you've got the effervescent texture, you've got a light body. Something like that would go really, really well. So we're going acidic, we're going salt. I think that would go really well with like any mixed salad that you can think of. So I'm thinking like a beet salad, goat's cheese, something like that, because salt and goat's cheese are really happy together. Sour and sweet beets are really great together. You could have some bitter greens in there and just sort of hit all the notes. I think that would be a lot of fun. And now I need to drink that.
This one, unfortunately, has been in my fridge for a while, so I don't really know what the current status is, but I'll continue to save it. And the next time I see you,
let's meet up and drink it. That would be really
right.
Right.
One of the spicy cans.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Micheladas, I was all in, and Cerveza actually has michelada flights now.
Yeah,
So
I
maybe
saw that
that's
yesterday, and I didn't have time to stick around, but next time, yeah, for sure. So I know I kind of rambled a little bit. Are there any questions from anybody? Are there any comments? I'm happy to go back over it. Admittedly, I would normally have like a slideshow or something to put up, and I just don't have that today. So reading off of notebooks is a little awkward.
fantastic, and it's given me food for thought, no pun intended. Like, I like bitter when it comes to like that bitterness from a porter or a good roasty stout, but when it comes to bitterness from like high IBUs or IPAs, like not so much my jam.
give them all.
Well, and you brought up a good point. So when you say high alcohol, that actually can work against you. So if you have something that is super high alcohol and you're dealing with either super salty, super bitter, or super spicy, it can enhance those flavors and not in a good way. That high ABV, the high alcohol. So you've heard people talk about, oh, that's hot if they drink. Usually it's a liquor. Most usually it's a rye. And we'll have some of those flavors today. I think it's the Chris Kale in Pale Ale that has a little bit of a rye note to it. That one is an interesting combination. I had to play with that one a lot to really find all the stuff I wanted to find in a good way. But yeah, high alcohol. I mean, this is a 10 ABV beer. That's a lot for a beer. So it can take over and enhance those flavors that we inherently think are poison, are bitter. Yes, we do need salt, but at some point salt just overtakes and you can't taste anything else. So with high ABV beers, I tend to pair them with really strong flavors. I actually think the fried food is good because they also have a little bit of sweetness to them. They don't always have the same carbonation level. So when I think of carbonation, I think in levels of like effervescence. It's tickling my tongue. It's giving me, that fizzy drink sort of sensation in my mouth, but it's not carbonated like a soda or a really fresh light beer. It doesn't have those big bubbles that burst while you're drinking it. It's more of just a sensation. All of those are really good with fried and fatty food because it can help break it up a little bit. But yeah, with the high ABV, you just want to be careful that you're not doing anything too strong, too bitter, too spicy, too salty, because it can just accentuate those, and then you're not going to enjoy your beer or your food.
Thank you for exploring that, and I'm thinking now that me not being into like really high IBUs is a way for me to keep myself alive. Maybe it's my ancestors speaking to me saying, child, that's poison.
Yeah. It's such an interesting research project because I like bitter food. I like bitter beer. I'm not a sweets person. I mean, the pairing today is wonderful, but I don't really reach for sweets that often. And when I do, it usually has more of an umami flavor, more savory flavors, like the cheesecake that I did the other day, or the cake that I did the other day, carrot cake. And I pulled back on the sugar and I added more of the nuttiness and all those kinds of flavors. I even added more warming spices because I wanted that sort of dry, really savory spice versus this sweet cake that I was doing. So yeah, it's just, you just have to kind of put together what you like, but then think about how that's going to work. And so bitter is a really good example because I love it. And when I started researching this kind of thing a couple of years ago, I realized, wait a minute, but I like these things. It's not poison. I promise. I'm not hurting myself. But that's where a lot of our taste receptors and our responses came from. So spicy and hot, again, it's a pain receptor. It's not a flavor. And so if people can keep that in mind and look at the flavor of the spicy that they're putting with things, even within spices and peppers and things like that, there are ways to pair them better that are not going to just be hot for the sake of being hot. They're actually going to complement your food. And that's, as I said earlier, I make hot sauce. And that's why I started doing it. And so if you can focus on what flavors go together and what makes you happy, I mean, the end take from this is honestly drink what you like and eat what you like. If you're happy with it, that's fine. But if you really want to accentuate the flavors of what you're eating and drinking, especially for presenting to others, these are good things to consider. And if anybody ever needs any help, you can just let me know.
Well, I need help.
I got you.
More ways than one. But what's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody had some questions or wanted to learn more about what you shared with us today? What's the best way to get in touch?
Super simple. You can either, and we can put, I don't know if you're doing like a post video summary, but I've got a website, artfulsaucier.com. The business number is on there. It does forward to my cell phone. So you can just get a hold of me that way, or you can send an email to saucy@artfulsaucier.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So now that we know what we're looking for when we are pairing, other than just like, hey, I like beers, I like cookies, let's throw them together. Now we can have an educated and informed journey through this little flight that we have here of cookies and beer. So we're going to actually start with our first pairing, and this is our Berry Blast Blonde. That's being featured from a Northern Nevada brewery, Lead Dog Brewing. Terry, have you had a chance to visit up there yet?
Unfortunately not, but hopefully I can visit there when things kind of get back to normal and we're allowed to travel again.
I think we're definitely going to have to make a little road trip up that way. Yes, we're going to get even what is like a 15-passenger van, and we'll take turns driving. I'll be on snack duty, and just make a good weekend out of it. So we actually have a little overview of this brewery that we're going to share with you in just a second here to familiarize ourselves with the brewery, the story of the brewery, things that they're doing in their community up north, and then we'll come back with Gemini, and she's going to walk us through our first pairing. We're having a little technical learning opportunity. So, is anybody hearing sound on their end?
No, I'm not getting a sound, just the video.
Okay. So while we work this out, I'm interested for those of you that are still with us live, and for those of you that are watching, we can definitely see your comments on YouTube. So what was your first beer that you had that made you fall in love with beer? I've been asked this question a lot, and I've fallen in love with different beers at different stages of my life. But the first time that I can remember having a beer that was like, whoa, this is a different experience. I went to university in Sydney, and when my parents would come to visit, there's an amazing German restaurant in the Rocks portion of Sydney. Gemini, you're probably familiar with the place that I'm talking about.
I am.
And they have amazing Hefeweizen with fresh squeezed mango juice. And you see that face? It's good. It's real good. So,
especially on a like a summer day.
Yes.
In like
humidity,
November, and it's just
delicious. Like I would probably, sell a body part or two to have right now. It's that good. Granted, it would be one that I can live without. Oh, okay. Sorry. But yeah, that was the first time that I was like, wow, this is beer, and it's sweet, and it's delicious, and it doesn't make me feel super bloated afterwards. So that was the first beer that really kind of opened my mind up to the creativity that is in, craft beer. So, Terry, what was the first beer that you kind of fell in love with?
Okay, well, I went to college at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, Midwest, and craft beer wasn't necessarily a big thing in that area or then. But I distinctly remember the first time that I had Boulevard's unfiltered wheat. And when we would go out on the town, typically we would go towards more cheap beer. And so the first time I tried that, it was wow, it was very different. And so that's kind of what we considered our splurge beer when we could afford a pitcher of that. You know, it was like $9 at the time, but when you are a college student, that was a lot. But I distinctly remember that beer really changing how I saw beer, and it made me want to try more. And my husband is here off camera as well. And when you pose the question, he's not really ever been big into craft beer until I got him Pliny the Elder for Father's Day one year. And
Yes.
now he's like a fiend for it. That's all he wants. He keeps talking about driving to Santa Rosa so that we can buy a keg. So yeah, that was his beer that made him love craft beer.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, I think we are ready to go. So here's a little quick overview. Gretchen, we're going to be sipping on that beer in just a second. Hang on. And we're going to hit that pairing up in just a moment.
It just moves extra. You'll have to turn your mic off.
It is nice. All right, thanks for bearing with us, guys. We had a little bit of a glitchy poo, but we'll work through it as we do all of 2020 and 2022, 2021. Awesome. So we know Gretchen's ready. I'm ready here. Terry, you ready to go? I see a cookie, but I think you froze. All right, Gemini, when you're ready.
Yeah, so one of the things that I mentioned earlier, first, actually, I want to answer Ashley's question. I grew up in Northern California, and again, cheap beer everywhere. The first beer I remember drinking that wasn't the typical, natty ice and things like that. I'm not faulting anybody. Again, I said earlier, drink what you like. It's not for me. And so for about half my life, I thought I didn't like beer because the only thing that was available to me was the mass-produced American lagers and things like that. Lager is not my favorite style. I still know that, but I've had enough now where I can appreciate it. So yeah, Sierra Nevada, way back in the day, was probably my first craft beer. It was one of the, if not the first craft beers brew house in California, if not the United States. I know there's others. I'm not claiming anything specific, but yeah, I think that was the first time that I'd ever had a beer that I actually enjoyed, and I realized that it didn't have to be the Buds and the Millers and the things like that. And again, if you like that style, that's great. I'm happy for you because it's inexpensive. It's everywhere. It just was never my style. And I thought I didn't like beer. And then I tried that and tried a few other things and started really kind of paying attention. And then when I moved to Nevada in 2005, I got involved in some of the community here, not as much as I am now, and really started enjoying what I was finding. And it wasn't necessarily Nevada beer specifically. It was just a more open, welcoming, teaching, inclusive community than I'd ever known in San Francisco or in Nashville, where I was for a little while. Again, this is a lot of years ago. So yeah. So that said, we are going to move on to Lead Dog Berry Blast Blonde. Say that 5 times fast. Fun can. I love it. So you know what you're getting into. It is an ale. It is a 5.0 ABV. So I like where they said on their presentation that it was crushable. I would absolutely consider a 5.0 session beer. This is something that just the beer itself, I would be happy, especially with summer coming up, sitting by the pool, drinking a few of these, not a care in the world. Like that just sounds like a perfectly refreshing day to me. So everybody has their tasting notes that came with your kit. I've written on mine a little bit, but you should have this page. And one of the things it says on there is the fruity ester aroma. And I'm excited that I get to talk about this one because it feeds into what I was talking about earlier. I mentioned esters, and they're, from fatty acid chains, from both animal fats and vegetable fats. That includes the citrus oils and things like that we talked about. Specifically, esters are a chemical compound derived from acid when at least one hydroxyl, an OH, so oxygen and hydrogen, is replaced by an O-alkyl, which is an alkoxy, which is more of an alkaline, oxygen only. The water, the hydrogen is taken out, or not the water, sorry, the hydrogen is taken out. And so you end up with what they call these esters. Again, it could be animal fat, it could be vegetable oil. That's a really broad range of things. And it is a class of lipid because it falls into those fat categories. And it's perfect for this beer because it is so citrusy. So if you take a sip just by itself, you have, so there are berries as well have this, something that's a natural pectin. If you've ever made jam or jelly, pectin is the stuff you either use or gets created in the process to gellify your jams and jellies. It makes them thicker, it makes them stick together, it gives them more of a creamy flavor, a creamy texture. I see that question and I'm I got an answer for you. So it goes really well. So you've got these with the cookie, because it's a lemon cookie and it's a shortbread, so it's got fats in it. You've got a little bit of everything happening. You've got pectin from the berries coming through, because those things will add to beer. You can't strain that kind of stuff out. It's not a solid enough that you can strain it out. So between that, what happens in fermentation, add the cookie, which is super buttery because it's a shortbread. It's got a lot of lemon in it, so it still has those lemon oils in it. It's not too sweet, which I really, really like. It's got more fructose than it has the other, like plain sugars, at least on the tongue. And so it becomes this super fruity, the fat carries the fruit and a little bit of the acid. There's fat in the cookie and in the beer, believe it or not. And those two just go really well together. So somebody mentioned that it tastes like cereal.
I can't put my finger on which one, but it tastes like cereal.
It's like
Fruity Pebbles.
it's Fruit Loops.
Oh yeah, Fruit Loops, Fruity Pebbles. Yeah.
The only reason I didn't go with Pebbles is because the texture of those is so fine, and they're great at first, but they don't carry that sort of effervescent, crunchy thing that you have happening with Fruit Loops. You get something similar with Apple Jacks, but that's a little one note, which what I found with Fruit Loops, and this is actually a tasting exercise, is we tried Fruit Loops and then we tried off-brand versions. And it just depends on how they do their sugar coating and the texture of those little O's that they use. And that's exactly what I'm getting, because I get the berry, I get the lemon, I'm getting all these different flavors, but I'm getting that fatty, I'm getting the sugar, and you put those things together, and yeah, that's why these two go really well together.
Awesome, fantastic. So for those of you that are watching, and those of you that may be watching this not live, but a little bit later, there is a scoring section on your pairing guide. Give it a scale of 1 to 5. Personally, I love Fruity Pebbles. I will eat them by the handful out of the bag. Guava ice cream rolled in Fruity Pebbles is one of my favorite desserts when I'm in Jamaica. And going back to the texture thing, I think personally I prefer the Fruity Pebbles because of what Jim and I mentioned, whereas the Fruit Loops, that structural integrity stays there a bit longer and it's a bit more work, whereas that Fruity Pebble kind of couple chews and you're good to go. So awesome. Hopefully everybody has had a taste. Gretchen, hope that you like that pairing. I know you were excited for it. And we're going to move into our second pairing now. We have one of our pioneering ladies of craft beer here in the state of Nevada.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, ladies.
If you don't know this lady, you need to get to know her. She is a wealth of information, inspiration. She's just all around. There might be kids watching, so I'll choose. She's just a bad lady. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I'm not a bad lady.
Bad in a good way.
Okay. Okay.
A bad, that's what she is. So yes.
She's a rock star.
Yes.
A bad pajama.
There you go. So thank you so much for joining us, Wendy. And we've just been kind of chatting about what got us into craft beer. What was that first beer that we had? We were like, wow, this is more than, like I grew up in a Colt 45 household, and so if you could kind of just share a little bit with us, Wendy, about how you discovered craft beer and what your journey to craft beer has been like so far.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for having me, Ashley, and all you lovely ladies. I'm pleasured to be in your presence. I think you're representing us well, and I'm proud of what you're doing today. So a little bit of a backstory. So I am co-owner and co-founder of Craft House Brewery with my husband, Dave Forrest. So after we graduated from UNLV, go Rebels, we went to Europe. And then that's what really opened our eyes that beer could be full flavored. Beer brought out different esters and aromas and nuances and experiences when paired with food, and even more so when we were looking around, when we were sitting, in those beer gardens all throughout Bavaria. Beer was bringing people together, whether they were talking about beer or not. Going as an American, it's a little bit uncomfortable being forced to sit at a table with strangers, but that's where unexpected friendships blossom from. So we were really drawn to that. We traveled all through Bavaria and all through Western Europe, and really wanted to get our hands on more. So we came back and we were looking for those full flavored beers here, specifically in Henderson, because we live in Henderson. Not to discount what Big Dogs and Tenaya Creek have done prior to us opening. There just wasn't anything like that in Henderson. So Dave started home brewing, and then that was a whole passion that took over our lives and our time. There's something bubbling and fermenting in all parts of fermentation and cellaring all through the house. So then I think Gemini mentioned Sierra Nevada. So Sierra Nevada has a very special place in our heart, and is a little bit of the inspiration why we decided to build Craft House Brewery. There was a contest that Sierra Nevada put out called Tell Us Why You Deserve to Go to Beer Camp. And so Dave has 2 degrees in recreation. So you put both of his passions, camp being recreation and then brewing, together. And this was like his holy grail of all experiences. So we submitted a super quick video while the kids were napping. And then lo and behold, they chose 10 people from across the nation to go to Chico and to brew. Beer camp is you need to brew, or you're invited to brew on their system as a group. And when it's finished and ready to ship out, they ship it out to you. So he goes to Chico and he goes on a pub crawl with Ken Grossman, who, is still the original founder of Sierra Nevada, and they're still independently owned, which is a huge deal for that size of a company to still be independently owned. So he comes back home and he's all inspired and he's like, we should move to Chico. And I'm like, well, it's not a lot going on in Chico. Like, we already graduated. We don't need to go to Chico State. Like, they have a great brewery. So I said, well, why don't we open our own tiny version of a Sierra Nevada inspired brewery here in Henderson, where we live. So we obviously went with plan B, because it's now been 6.5 years since the brewery has been opened. And then we opened a secondary tasting room in the Arts District about 1.5 years ago. So that was kind of our beer aha moment, and then how it transitioned from home brewing into professional brewing. It's a long story. So I condensed 7 years in the making down to...
Well, as somebody who lived basically around the corner right before you opened, and then while you were open, I was super excited because we didn't have anything like that in Henderson. And we knew, because of great community outreach, how hard you worked to do what you were doing, and how much energy and effort. You didn't just, oh, there's a licensing factor and I pay for a license and I open a business. I mean, usually it is that easy. As long as you've got the money and the paperwork, you're good. I know in your case, do you mind telling everybody just a little bit about why it was such a difficult fight and why you were so successful?
Yeah. Well, I don't take no for an answer to start with. So don't tell me no. I'll just figure out another way to go around. So in the planning phase, and it was 4 years from us saying, hey, let's move to Chico, to us opening. There was 4 years in the making of us planning, researching, developing, finding funding, and then, wading through the licensing. So we found out the reason why there was only one brew pub in Henderson, and that was Barley's, which is owned by Station Casinos. The licensing was only written for them if you wanted to open a brew pub in the city of Henderson. So when we went to the city and said, this is what we want to do, brewery with tasting room, they said, you can either get a brewer's license, which is what Joseph James had and why they couldn't have a tap room, and you could not have a tap room with a brewer's license, or you can get a brew pub license, and it's $60,000 and it automatically comes with gaming. So that defeats the purpose of our why, of why we were inspired to build Craft House, because we built Craft House because we wanted to build a community around quality-driven beer. So if the community had nowhere to commune to, then that defeats the whole purpose of Craft House. So they said, oh no, you don't have to have gaming, but you just have to pay for it. So as a point of reference, in San Diego County, a brew pub license is $1,000. So for us to pay $60,000 for a license that we wouldn't financially benefit from, and we'd have to do the background check of a gaming license, just really wasn't useful to us. So I said, no, I don't have to pay for it. So instead, I became a registered lobbyist for the city of Henderson. I lobbied city council for about 16 months and wrote new licensing and separated out brewpub into non-gaming and reduced that to $10,000. But we also did that not to just benefit us and save us $50,000. We did it because building a community also means a community of fellow brewers. Mm-hmm. So in doing that, there's been, I think, five breweries that had opened in the city of Henderson after we changed the licensing, and that was our plan. So you can't have a community with just one. So our plan worked out, and then it's a long story, but I also had to change the zoning. So that's how the Booze District was born. If you've visited us here in Henderson, the Booze District has 3 breweries, a winery, and a distillery, and soon to be, I've heard, a meadery as well. So it's a great place to catch up with friends and hop around and enjoy everything that's made here locally. But shall we get to the fun part? Let's do some tasting. Whew, I need some beer after that.
I just want to say, like Gemini said, talking about before you guys opened, that I remember the first time I met you, it was at one of the downtown beer festivals, and you guys were serving beer in VIP, which I was not. But I saw you in your Craft House shirt, and I accosted you, like, where did you get that shirt?
That sounds like you, Terry.
One of the owners, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for you guys to open. Remember this space, because I lived right down the street then, and I was, I'll be there. And I was.
You were. You stood to your word. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the support that has kept us going, especially through COVID. And has been, our inspiration and our cheerleaders. And it's really, come full circle. That's why we built Craft House, was to build a community. So for the community to embrace us and to help us, guide us through COVID, it's really endearing and brings a tear to my eye. But anyway, enough crying. Let's get to beer.
I'm so good. It's good because you're happy tears. Happy,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to take a minute and share, just really briefly how important Craft House has been to me in my craft beer journey. My first beer festival ever, the first tent that I went to was Craft House. The first brewery that I actually had the opportunity to come behind the scenes and see what it all takes and the equipment and everything. And I just really appreciate you guys always being so open and gracious for me to come in and see what it's all about. So thank you. Cheers. Good stuff.
Cheers. Yes. Well, thank you. I'm not crying. You're crying. So one thing Gemini didn't mention, and she knows so much that she can't jam it all into the small amount of time that we had.
I'm not the brewer, so please.
I know. Pour your beer in a glass. So whenever you're doing a pairing, it's usually important to pour your beer in a glass, because you'll be able to open up your olfactory. You'll be able to smell more esters, aromas, all of those great things that the can blocks your nose from smelling. So if you haven't poured your beer, please pour your beer. And then I'll give you a little walkthrough of Cuckoo. So if you don't know, our logo is a cuckoo clock. That comes from our inspiration coming from the Bavarian region of Germany, and that's where the cuckoo clock is made. And a cuckoo clock is a handcrafted piece of artwork, just like the beer in your glass is a handcrafted piece of artwork. And our motto is time well spent. So we named Cuckoo because when Cameron, our brewer, who's now been with us over 2 years, this was the first lager that we had ever brewed at Craft House. So we were cuckoo for never doing a lager until then. So that's where the name behind that comes. And the beer style itself is a German Munich Dunkel lager. So the Bavarian region of Germany. And that means also that we source our specialty malts from Bavaria. And also our yeast is sourced at one of the oldest breweries in Prague. So we try to stay traditional when we're brewing traditional beer styles, but that doesn't mean that Cameron lacks any creativity. If you've paid attention to any of our 12 beers that we've released in the last 9 weeks, we've done a dragon fruit boba milkshake IPA. We've done another milkshake IPA that was inspired by strawberry mochi.
That was so good.
Yeah, we're brewing it again, so look for it again.
Oh.
So with Cuckoo, if you look at it, the best way to look at your beer is put a white piece of paper behind it. A lot of people hold it up to the light. It's actually better if you put a white piece of paper behind it because then you have some scope of what to compare it to. So you should see kind of flecks of garnet, maybe dark red, dark brown in there. And if you poured it vigorously, it should have a nice white snow cap of head foam on there. Now, this is a lager, super quick. There's 2 yeast strains, 2 yeast families, I should say. There's ales, which typically ferment at higher temperatures, and lagers are bottom fermenters. So you can always remember lagers lag at the bottom, where ales are top fermenting in the fermenters. So lagers also ferment at colder temperatures. So if we know anything about yeast, they're single-celled organisms, and when they're colder, they move less, so they produce less alcohol in the same amount of time an ale would. So that's why a lot of breweries don't produce lagers, because they tie up tank space for a longer amount of time. They typically don't create as high of an alcohol by volume, and therefore you can't usually charge as much for them. But we have a love affair with lagers now, and we will keep making them because they're so classic and clean and pristine, and they're traditional, and it's usually what brewers like to drink. So we need to drink things that, balance the brewer's happiness quotient too. So when I'm doing cookie and beer pairing, because I have a huge sweet tooth and I do it a lot, I like to bite the cookie first because your mouth is already starting out warm, and it's gonna, if there's any lipids, fats, chocolate, especially those cocoa butters, it's already gonna start to melt and warm those up. And then now you're coating your palate with that chocolate and those lipids, and then the beer is gonna come through and brush it all clean. That's something between pairing beer as opposed to wine. Wine, your acidity is definitely going to, scrub your palate and start you over to do that interplay again with the food and the drink. That's a great use for carbonation. So just think of like scrubbing bubbles. The carbonation scrubs your palate clean again, and you can start out refreshed, and you won't go through palate exhaustion, and then your pairing's done in 4 bites, and you're like, I'm done with it. That way, that's the beautiful interplay between beer or any beverage and any food. So, cheers. We can have a sip. I think it's a really great pairing choice. I don't know who picked it. Ashley, was this you? Terry did? Thanks, Terry. So even though Cuckoo is dunkel, which means dark in German, it's not going to weigh down heavy on your palate. So this is really a darker color beer, but it's not a heavier beer. So you can drink this all through the summertime when the temperatures are high outside, and it really is refreshing. So the specialty malts, so that's where beer gets its color. So I have 2 different layers of malted barley here. Just like you would roast a coffee bean blonde all the way down to espresso roast, the same is true with our malted barley. So that's where the color in your beer primarily is going to come from. And just like a baker would start out with maybe all-purpose flour for a recipe, the brewer starts out with typically what's called 2-row pale malt. So you want a kind of blank canvas. So then you can add in your specialty malts, which will add color and flavor and aroma. So the specialty malts that we used in here, just like the descriptor says, is it's think of bread crust, so toasted, a little bit caramelized bread, which works out great with the caramel in the cookie. And then the biscuit of the cookie also works really great with cuckoo as well. The coconut is obviously going to bring in a nutty tone, which works out with the nuttiness of the roasted malts in there. Does anybody have any questions? Am I breaking up? Sorry.
Oh,
I really love this pairing. I think they complement each other really well.
They do really well. Yeah. I will throw out there, if you still have a peanut butter cookie available to you, take a bite of that with this as well. Both of those go really, really well with this dunkel. Like, I know that had to be a hard choice, and it's fantastic.
The dosages are my favorite.
Are they?
We had them paired together, but what we had paired with the Caramel Delights wasn't available any longer. So we kind of shuffled a little bit, and
absolutely,
that's how it ended up.
Yeah, I just love how they're two very different cookies, and they just go really, really well with that beer, and that speaks a lot to the beer. You know, the last thing you want is it to only taste good with like one type of thing. These are two very different cookies, and because of the biscuit notes, because of the peanut butter, because of the fats, because of all these different things, it goes well with both of them.
I'm going to do it. I'm going in.
Yep, super good.
And here's a little tidbit for those people who like chai lattes and chai spice. We also have a version of this with chai spice in it as well. And it's a special release. It's available at both tap rooms, but that one is really interesting. The cardamom in it is my favorite part of it.
You had me at cardamom.
It's so deep and interesting. I think because my American palate is not exposed a lot to cardamom, but I'm really drawn to it.
And how long is that one available, Wendy? Just till it sells out?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's available at both tap rooms, one in the Arts District and Henderson. And we have it on tap as well if you want to just enjoy a pint of it.
Gemini, I can see the gears turning in your.
I mean, because those flavors will go really well. One of my favorite things to make is a chocolate cardamom pot de creme. And it is decadent, and it has all those super earthy flavors. So now I just need to run my ass down there and get that beer.
You'll pick the beer up if you cook. I'll make you a deal.
That's done.
All right.
I'll trade you a 4-pack for a 4-pack of pot de cremes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next, let's do a curry stout, Wendy. Like Indra Kanindra from Ballast Point was amazing. I don't make it anymore, and I loved that beer. So I know you guys like the bold flavor, so maybe, you know, hint, hint.
Well, hint, hint. We already have something in the works because our milkshake IPA series has a South Pacific and Eastern influence so far, and Pan-Asian. So we're definitely going to be visiting India in one of those of the releases as well.
That's awesome.
I'm excited. That sounds awesome.
All right.
Are there any questions coming in from anybody else? Do they need me to answer? Let's see. A little bit of coffee flavor on this one. Yep, you can pick up coffee. And again, that's from the roasted malts. So it's a little bit, just a tiny bit astringent because, you know, you don't want just a one note sweet kind of bomb of malt of beer.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the soy sauce undertones. I remember when we did virtual craft house day, anniversary day, and that was one of the comments that came up, and it's made it one of my favorites because it's just so interesting. There's so many levels of flavor that just make me so happy.
I like it because I don't get tired of it after a pint.
Yeah.
Usually a pint of something, I'm like, that's great. I'm going to move on to something else. And I think it just goes back to the balance of the malts and the lager yeast. And, some people are maybe a little bit intimidated by dark color beers. And if you are, it's a great one to start out with.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Ashley.
Sorry, I was chewing.
Oh.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much again for all that you do for us beer lovers here in Southern Nevada. And sounds like I need to make another trip after I leave here to come pick up some beers for Gemini to make us some yummy treats.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Wendy. We'll see you soon.
Cheers, ladies. Thank you.
So up next, we have a pairing featuring a beer from Bad Beat. Sorry, just getting situated here.
You can still give me
He can come back. He's an honorary member. Tell him to come back. Thank you for lending her to us today. We would be.
Oh, he got the benefit. I've got a picture of a very messy desk with cables everywhere, but plenty of beer for him too.
Well, then that works out well. So our next pairing is featured. It's a feature. I'm sorry, from Bad Beat, and the amazing lady there. I mean, there's lots of amazing ladies there, but one that's near and dear to my heart is Amber. Unfortunately, she's unable to join us live, so she's recorded a video for us. So bear with us 1 second while we get that queued up. About Bad Beast and this amazing beer that we're going to be tasting.
Cheers.
Well, oh, never mind. There we go. Maybe. Okay, so yeah, while they're trying to get this loaded, I just wanted to add as well about my favorite beer that I grew up in San Diego, but when I was there, I wasn't old enough to partake in craft beer. So I didn't really get to experience it. I just wanted to add that until they got it loaded.
Absolutely.
So I would probably say along the lines of Stone. I have craft beer.
Hi guys, Amber here from Bad Beat Brewing. Sorry I can't be with you virtually tonight, but by the time you see this, I will actually be in the wilderness with my family camping. So instead I made this video to share with you guys and talk a little bit about beer and the pairing you're going to enjoy tonight. First off, though, I would like to say thank you to everyone who made this awesome event possible. So Pink Boots, the Girl Scouts, Cerveza, and all the whose beer tonight. One thing I was asked to speak about is what it means to me to be a woman in the craft industry, which is a great question because it really means a lot. At Bad Beat, I wear a lot of hats. So I'm office manager, beer tender, I'm one of the social media managers, I work in branding, labeling, marketing, all of those aspects. So what does that really mean? It means that a woman's voice is getting heard across the board in all of those aspects as well. You know, I have a seat at the table. So anytime we make a business decision, my perspective as a woman, my viewpoint is getting heard and getting translated through that, which is awesome. because in a predominantly male industry, having my voice being heard and respected and received is amazing and what we really want. It's the way we can make change within this industry and how we can, equal the playing field so that women have a bigger voice in the craft beer community, which I think is what we all kind of want. So that is one way that I feel, it's important to me. A second is this right here. Getting to speak with other women who love craft beer as much as I do. Truly do. I love getting to nerd out with other women who want to talk about beers and ingredients and breweries and the things that make them happy about craft beer, because I truly am passionate about it. Craft beer brought my husband and I literally together. We met at a beer release. We have children named after beer, which is not a joke. But we really are passionate about beer and what it brings to our life. It's our livelihood as well. And we love it. And we're grateful. And we are so blessed that we actually get to work in a business that we love getting to do what we do. So that is just one of the best things I could ever ask for right there. So just another reason I love being in this industry. And on that note, let's talk about the beer you're about to drink tonight. All right, so we've got Casting Shadows, which is our raspberry chocolate stout with vanilla. So for this beer, we wanted to make the base of it, that stout, to be really milk chocolatey. So we used some really nice malts in there, low on the roast end to really bring forward the milk chocolate flavors. Then we added raspberry puree to it. And the thing I like that the raspberry puree adds to this beer, in my opinion, is a nice jammy quality. Not just fruity, but a rich jam quality to it. And then we add a hint of vanilla bean to it. And that just really ties it all together, gives the beer a little complexity and brightens up all those flavor notes. So the great part of it and the way it's going to pair with the do-si-do is that, peanut butter and jam, PB&J, what's greater than that too? So that was one way we thought it would be nice. Those two flavors would really pair well together. And then secondly, that milk chocolatey flavor along with the peanut butter also. I mean, who doesn't love chocolate and peanut butter? Come on. So I hope you guys enjoy the pairing, enjoy the beer, and have a great night. Take care, guys.
All right, Amber, thank you. Wherever you're camping from, we appreciate that great. So we're to get Gemini back here in just a second. There she is.
I don't know what happened, but it wanted me to log in for something.
Maybe there might be a timer.
I'm here now.
I think because I don't know what's going on, but yes. So this pairing for me, I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but I hate grape jam or jelly. But raspberry is, I know, Terry, we can fight about it later, but grape jelly is disgusting if you ask me.
Grape jelly and strawberry jelly are where it's at, period.
But this is if I could redesign Goober, the peanut butter and jam all in one jar. I don't know if anybody else ate, Goober needs to make a chocolate stripe, raspberry puree stripe, and a peanut butter stripe. And
I'm okay with that.
This pairing. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm fully okay with that.
We also picked up cookies from Freed's yesterday, randomly, unrelated. And my husband found a raspberry cake cookie in there.
Yeah.
So we've also been trying that with it, and it's incredible. But the peanut butter one, it's great. It's definitely just peanut butter and jam or jelly, and I love it.
The caramel goes well. I mean, both of those two beers in the middle, the cookies could switch back and forth. If you haven't tried the caramel with this one, it's good as well. It pops some of the sweetness. You still get the raspberry flavors. The caramel just ends up as this underlying component with the chocolate. And the coconut is really nice.
So we have another special guest.
Unfortunately, I have a troll here that has eaten like all of the extra cookies that we would have had.
Who has extra cookies?
No, there's 4 for each beer. So
again,
ideally that would have been 2 for me and 2 for my husband. But it's ended up 1 for me, 1 for my husband, and 2 for sometimes a half for us. And she's been enjoying the cookies without the beer pairing.
So I'm going to go ahead and add our next special, fantastic, amazing, phenomenal lady of craft beer that also is a Pink Boots member, Miss Kayla. Let me add her in here. Hey, lady.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Cool.
Have you
been
able
Ashley,
to
sorry.
these pairings?
I have. And I hope everybody's following along because now I've had a few beers and it feels pretty good.
It's a really nice way to spend an afternoon.
Yeah, it's a good Sunday. So just to start off, my name's Kayla. I'm the operations manager at Able Baker Brewing Company here in Las Vegas. We're located off of Main Street in the famous Arts District neighborhood. I think that we're starting out with our very last beer. I know you guys are kind of still finishing your other one, but I'm jumping right into the beer. I'm excited to talk about this beer. It's a pairing that they chose to do with Thin Mints. And I think Thin Mints are one of the most popular Girl Scout cookies that there is. A little history about Able Baker is we've been actually brewing this beer since 2016. And you'll see that there's a very famous looking face on this. This is Chris Kale, and this is the Chris Kale Impale Ale. We do call this an Imperial Brown Ale. Chris Kale is actually currently lives in Las Vegas, but he's originally from Kentucky. And you might recognize his face because he is the bassist for Five Finger Death Punch. And one of our owner founders was a good friend of his and decided to name this beer after him. And I guess what they went with is, or what we went with, it was this guy's a rock star. So they want high ABV. We got double digits at 10%. So, all that rock star life. They also played into the fact that Chris is from Kentucky and, they're known for their bourbon, their distilleries and stuff like that. Our idea was to create a big beer that represented him and then also do something that brought in his Kentucky roots. So we actually rest this on oak to bring in some of those natural bourbon flavors. So although this particular beer is not actually bourbon barrel aged, it is aged on oak that provides the flavors that kind of remind you of bourbon. We do have a beer coming out later this year that is called the Chris Kale Double Barrel Impaled Ale. So that one will actually be barrel aged. This one is just invokes the flavor of oak that kind of gives that barrel aged flavor. I know we classify this as a Imperial Brown Ale. It actually tastes or drinks similar to a porter, which is known for its natural chocolate flavors. This makes this pairing with the chocolate mint like a home run. You've got chocolate on milk chocolate, and that's why this really works. There's also obviously the mint from the cookie. We even add oats to the beer, which gives it its smooth, easy drinking finish. Sorry, I'm about to drink right out of the can. Don't do that. But honestly, it super smooth finish. There is also a unique character in the beer, which is rye that we use. 13% rye, and it actually brings about some people are sensitive to it, some people are not, but like there's certain characteristics you get from rye, which would be like a spiciness or even like a dry tannic, flavor, as Jim and I had described. I think that dryness really pulls through the chocolate and gives that milk chocolate sweetness, it just pulls it right through. The mint also creates this soothing, relaxing feeling of the high ABV that this can actually provide. But I need to taste. I think I ran through my tasting notes. Does anyone have any questions? Anything to throw to me?
I love that you brought up the tannins, because when you talk about being on wood but not necessarily aging in oak, like true barrel age, that's exactly what I'm getting. It's that dryness. It's that sort of woody flavor. You have in the tasting notes, it's got a spicy rye. It's not too strong, but I see that it's there. And when you have that wood note underlying, I think that helps a lot. The mint can be super strong, and this finds a way to kind of cut through that. And yeah, I'm super happy with that. I will say on my notes, just because I think all three of the beers that are not the fruited sour go really well with all of the peanut butter and chocolate based cookies. And so one of the things that I really liked with this one was both the peanut butter and the caramel really go with it as well, because it has that sort of base note, that woody sort of drier. It gives a little bit of spice, but it gives this, it's an aroma, but it does something when you put them together that really kind of pulls it out, dries it out. And to me, that really enhances the chocolate flavors and some of the more umami stuff in the beer. And then you taste the mint, or you taste the caramel, or you taste the peanut butter, and it just lifts it up that much more because you have that wood on there. Like, I don't know where the decision came from, but it's super smart, because it takes all three of those things, which are again very different, and elevates all of them, and then they in turn make some of the flavors in the beer that much brighter.
Agreed. Yeah, that's really what you had mentioned earlier, that this beer really has the complexity, the umami. There's different layers into this beer. Up front you might get a sweetness. At the end you get a little bit of the dryness that I spoke about, but also even the roasted barley that we add into it, it kind of gives almost a little bit of smoky flavor. But at the same time, when you pair it with that cookie that cuts through all of those harsh, different flavors, it just really fits well.
And I think that chocolate and that roasted grain and then the wood, I'm curious, I know that we have somebody on named Gretchen. Do you get the coffee in this one as well, like you did in one of the other ones? Through the way I'm viewing this today, I can't comment back. But I'm just curious because she mentioned the coffee earlier, and I really get that with this one. It's not as strong as, say, a cup of black coffee like I would associate with one of the other ones, but it has that roasty, almost oily, but not in like a fatty sense where my mouth is covered. But it has that sort of brightness, and it has almost a little bit of that acidity that a good cup of black coffee has. And oh yeah, there she is. Awesome. Thank you. It's wonderful. I think it's a fantastic beer.
Awesome. Yeah, I get that as well. One of the things that I didn't get to touch on is, I guess, what started me in beer.
Please. Yeah.
So I am born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I had some old friends, roommates, if you will, that were actually from Brookings, Oregon, and they were obsessed over this beer that we could not get at the time. And Black Butte Porter from Deschutes was the first beer that turned me on to craft beer. Something that wasn't the BMC, the Bud Miller Coors, something that was different, something that made me go, oh wow, yeah, no, I like this.
Bingo.
So that's my history of that.
I feel like dark beer seems to be like the segue for a lot of people. I don't know if you were listening earlier, Kayla, but we talked about the same thing. And I mentioned Boulevard Unfiltered Wheat because when I finally turned 21 in college, that's what we got to splurge on. And but I think generally, not necessarily craft, but Newcastle and Sam Adams were kind of beers that got me started into craft beer. And from there, you just keep going. And now, I mean, I love dark beers. The only thing I'm not really the biggest fan of is sour beers. I always try everything because I don't want to say that I don't like something without having tried it myself. But I'm like Mrs. IPA. I want the 100 IPAs that Ashley doesn't want and give them to me. Like I want the bitterest, hoppiest.
Yes.
West Coast has to be West Coast IPA. And my controversial beer take is that I have never had a West Coast IPA made from anywhere other than, I'll even say California, that is good. Like the East Coast breweries that try to make a West Coast IPA, it's not. It's never, ever hoppy enough. So yes, I think San Diego remains undefeated, and Pliny the Elder as well. People they like to think it's cool to kind of crap on that beer because it has been so popular for so long. But
you know what? It's popular for a reason. I have some in my butler's pantry that I will have to drink this afternoon.
And like also people who say that Blind Pig IPA is better than Pliny are, I don't know. That's not right. Blind Pig is an amazing beer on its own, but better than Pliny? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I had to try Pliny the Younger last year, and that was worth the hassle I had to go through to try to get somebody to send me some.
We spent I think it was Christmas of 2016 in Tahoe, and we had a couple of dogs with us, and we found a place that would let us bring the dogs in, watch football, and drink beer. That's all we wanted to do. We're just hanging out on Christmas Day, and they had Pliny the Elder on tap. And I think that's all I drank for about 6 or 8 hours, and it was a fantastic afternoon.
That sounds amazing.
I want to touch on something really quick. I know we're getting close on time. Terry mentioned that the things that she was enjoying were things like Newcastle and Sam Adams, and how people are sort of afraid of darker beers. But I used to be one of those people. I used to assume that all the darker beers are the same. And they're not. And so I love that you mentioned those two that are dark-ish. They've definitely got more roasty, malty, stuff like that. I mean, I know those flavors in my head, just saying those names, just thinking about those names. And then, so getting into the darker beers, that's where you get so many more layered flavors. Light beers are fantastic. And I'm not just counting a damn thing. I love a good light beer, especially, like I said, sitting by the pool. But there's not always all those nuanced things that we find we're talking about more with these darker things. So I'm just curious, Kayla, how did you, I mean, you gave the rock star references and things like that. Was it going for those deep layered flavors, or was it a happy accident?
No, for sure. I mean, it really falls into that whole rock star thing of, Chris Cale, he's this guy, he's doing this hard rock, like music and stuff. But like, we wanted to create something that gives your taste buds something that starts and just keeps building.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of this. Like I said, from the ingredients, I mean, it goes all over the place with the oats, with some of the dark crystal, the roasted barley, and everything like that. It's kind of all over the place. The hops are not really a big issue in this beer, not the big focus. It's more of that maltiness that you get. However, I mean, honestly, if you do get this bitterness, it's the roasted barley does provide a natural bitterness that's perceived as like almost like a hoppy flavor. But no, we really did want to make something that was just layered, something different.
Yeah. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Well, ladies, this has been fantastic. All of you know how I feel about you, so I won't embarrass you on YouTube in front of the whole world, but this has been absolutely amazing. And now that Pink Boots is open to a variety of members, that's the word that I'm looking for. Sorry, I've been drinking for a couple of hours. We do know that Pink Boots is, for those of us in the professional industry. But another awesome thing that we have here going on locally is the Molly Pitcher Club. Has anybody had the opportunity to come out and check that out yet?
No. How long are you going to be there?
For you, Walking Dead does come on at 6, but I do have an EVR. So if you're coming down, I will wait. But I think we definitely need to schedule a Sunday for us to come and check it out. But the Molly Pitcher Club, Terry, are you familiar with Molly's story?
Not particularly. I have seen some of the posts, but I look forward to being able to come down there on a Sunday, hopefully soon, and eventually have one of our meetups there as well.
Yeah.
So Ruth, who is here, she's an amazing Pink Boots member, but she's working hard behind the bar right now, so she's unfortunately not able to pop in and say hi. But this was her idea, was to have a welcoming space for women here locally to come in and explore craft beer and see what the community and the beers are all about. So it's from Sundays from 6 to, I guess, closing time. You have the opportunity to try a sampler. I think it's a 4-beer sampler for $10, and then you get a discount on your pint pours. So when you come and you join the club, you get a nifty little pin that I actually don't have on right now, but I do have one. So if you come down for nothing more than just the pin, definitely come check it out. And it's usually every Sunday. So hopefully as things kind of open back up a little bit, some of us ladies, if you are watching this live or later and you want to come out and discuss craft beer, we're accessible. Definitely you can reach out to us and we'll figure out a way to connect with you one way or the other. With that being said, membership is open for Pink Boots. Again, we are looking for any women that have a passion for fermented beverages. So whether that is hot sauce, kombucha, craft beer, wine, distilled spirits, we need you, we need you, we need you. None of us can know everything. And, what good is our knowledge if we don't share it? So you can reach out to us on Instagram. Terry, our handle is, let me see if I can add it here. Let's see if I'll do this right. It's at Pink Boots LB, or Pink Boots maybe LB.
Pink Boots LB, I believe.
Okay. Let's see. Let's have a quick look. While I look this up, Terry, is there anything going on with Craft Beer Girls that you wanted to share?
I'm sorry, it's actually Pink Boots Society LV.
Okay.
Well, I guess like I spoke about it earlier, but there are so many resources available through this national group. Ashley spoke about connecting with somebody that she had been speaking with via our travel group. So we have a group where ladies can go and ask opinions about cities they're going to, whether that's international or here in the States. And Ashley was able to connect with a random woman from Iowa who was going to be going to the Caribbean. So, and now I don't know, they might even be Facebook friends because you just you have things in common and you decide, hey, this is really cool. And I think we need more of that in this world, of just women supporting each other and helping and answering questions and just overall, being great. So we don't have any real events scheduled currently because of the pandemic. We'd rather be cautious, and I don't want to try to gather a large amount of people in one place. So as soon as it is safe, we will definitely get back on track and schedule something, hopefully monthly. There's so many new places that have opened that I cannot wait to take a group of ladies to and support. So yeah.
Kayla, anything coming up at Able Baker that we should be aware of? Sorry.
I muted myself. Sorry. I thought you guys could read lips. I don't know. I don't have anything that I can actually talk about for the same reason, pandemic and everything. We definitely have beers that are coming out, but please check our Facebook and Instagram because we are constantly posting about new beers that are coming out every single week. So check in with us there. That's the best place to see what's going on.
Fantastic. And Gemini, you got any amazing hot sauces or anything coming out soon?
I do. I've got a bunch that are available now, and I've got a bunch that are coming up. I've probably got about 17-ish gallons fermenting. Some of them have been fermenting for quite a while. I'm also doing chili crisp, Asian chili crisp, which is a pretty fantastic condiment if you've never used it before. I still have some of the batch we did about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, but there will be other varieties coming up. And if you just go to artfulsaucier.com, if you're in Vegas, we will deliver for $7.50. If you are not in Vegas, we will ship for $15. And just hold off on ordering anything for just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and set up a 10% discount under the code Pink Boots, all one word. And that'll go live either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. So if you guys want to check it out, check out the website, see if you like anything. I'll give you a 10% discount, and let's see what you got.
Awesome. I'm stuck on this pickle beer michelada, and I know that you've got some amazing hot sauces that will work beautifully for that.
I do actually, yeah.
I don't know if you caught that part, but we need to make that happen for sure.
In. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you so much, ladies. I could not have done this without you, and especially my left hand, her right, Amanda P. from North Fifth, who's been helping us out in the background here, getting everything together. But thank you, ladies, so much. Information will be coming out soon for our April meeting, which will be on the state of craft in our state. So there's some amazing things going on in the cocktail industry here, craft beer, all of that. So I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thanks so much for including us.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.